Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today we are talking about shopping for kids safely. We have an example, but it's really just about making good choices for our kids at the store. So let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, Pregnancy and Parenting Untangled. There's no right answer for every family, but on this show, we hope to give you some ideas to make life simpler at your house. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Today's guest, I think it's her third time on the podcast. She has a PhD in exposure science where she learns what chemicals that we are exposed to and how those affect moms and young children. I also heard that she is the reviewer of Safety for Things at the Tot, and she's the mommy behind Evidence-Based Mommy. I want to introduce today's guest, Samantha Radford. Are you overwhelmed by all there is to do around your house? As a new mom, I felt overwhelmed at every turn. Fortunately, I turned to systems to make a change. Whether it's mornings, dinner time, or even just to climb out of a pile of kids' clothes, My Course Family Routines can save you. I hold your hand as we smooth out these rough patches, making every day easier so we can more easily handle when your preschooler tells you they can use their urine like a lightsaber. Parenting is always going to be a wild ride. Routines are just your seatbelt, and they can support you. Use coupon code UNTANGLED to save 15% at checkout. Link in the show notes. Hey, Samantha, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Hey, Hillary. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Samantha's episodes are super popular. I know you guys like the research and the science behind all these different things. So today we're talking about buying a mattress, right?
Yes. So mattresses.
I bet most of you are not buying a mattress, but the idea is we're going to use buying a mattress as an idea to help us just shop better in general for our kids, because I didn't even think of the chemicals that were in the mattress I bought my 22-year-old.
Right. And especially when so you mentioned 22-year-old, I imagine he may be just out of college or something. You're like, just get him a cheap one. And
Yeah.
you go, I mean,
No,
like,
I mean when he was a kid. I don't care. Whatever mattress he buys now is his own problem.
It's his problem. Okay. But yes, yeah, with kids, a lot of times you're like, just get the cheapest one. But because they're little and their backs can take it and all that. But there's actually a lot to think about.
And it's all about support at the store, right? When I went to Babies R Us back in the day, when there was Babies R Us.
Yeah.
I don't know where people buy mattresses now, probably online. But it was all about like Posturepedic. And I was kind of like, this baby don't care. Its back's fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But there's a whole nother, side to that, like you said, that we just totally don't think about, because flame retardants, for example, was a big thing. So have you ever noticed, like, any piece of furniture you have? I'm like looking around because I'm sure at the bottom of this chair, there's that big giant tag, that has a bunch of words nobody ever reads. Like,
yes. And when you buy Mickey ears at Disneyland, the tag is like down your back.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Gosh, that's been a while. But, well, that's interesting. So that big giant tag is for what's called Prop 65, which is this law from California. And the law isn't that, like, particular chemicals aren't allowed. It's that they have to tell you if there's chemicals that are suspected carcinogens or things that cause, like, reproductive or fertility problems. Which often go hand in hand. So anyways, like any kind of furniture or mattresses or whatever that you get will have this tag. And what you'll usually find, the tag also has to say whether or not there's flame retardant. So you'll see there'll be like two little things. It'll either say like, this mattress contains flame retardants, or this mattress does not contain flame retardants, and there will be an X by the one, that applies.
I thought they all had to have flame retardants, no?
No, not anymore. So they have to be flame retardant in some other way. So they can either do that with chemical treatment, spraying this stuff on there that's really not good for you, and not good for your baby. And again, like we've talked about before, the problem is when something affects your baby, it has much more long-term impact than it does once you're in adulthood, because it's the butterfly effect, right? Like when you've got all these systems just now developing, you're going to cause huge problems. Whereas with us, like, these chemicals can cause some problems, but it's not going to be quite as like far reaching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you just like laid on bricks, those would be naturally flame retardant, right? Like if
true. That's true. Wool is also flame resistant, I think. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head all of that's going out the window. But polyurethane foam, for example, which is what lots of mattresses are made of, is highly flammable.
okay.
So, but the thing is, it's cheap, it's easy to make. So, why don't we just douse it in flame retardants? But if you have, usually these more like crunchy people mattresses that are made out of other stuff, it tends to not catch fire as easily. And so, that's why they don't have to use flame retardants on that.
Yeah. Okay. So something I'm noticing as we're having this conversation is as a parent, maybe they don't market mattresses this way anymore, but I was saying that as a parent, when I went through, it was all about the support because that's how I buy a mattress, right?
Right.
I want it to feel right. I want it to be cushy. A baby's mattress should not be cushy, by the
That is
way.
true.
They need to have a nice, firm mattress, but they're selling it like I'm using it for me, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, maybe that's changed some now because, like you said, your kids are 20 and
So old. I am an old parent for sure.
okay, that's fine. My oldest one is 9, and yeah, like, I'm already feeling like it's interesting. There's things that are different now than even in 2013. But anyways, I feel like there's a lot of changes as far as, like, you'll see, certifications on mattresses. So one that you might see a lot of times is called CertaPure. So they'll say, this is made with CertaPure foam, which is good. So, we were talking about flame retardants being in polyurethane foam. If it's CertaPure certified, that means there's not going to be flame retardants in there and it's going to be missing some of those other chemicals that are really a problem. But the trick with that is that particular certification only counts for the foam. So if you've got like the foam is safe, but then it's got a vinyl cover on that because vinyl's waterproof, which we like for baby mattresses, right? It's still problematic because vinyl has all these toxic chemicals that'll off gas and get into your breathing's airspace. Because, again, if you're laying on a mattress and a baby's sleeping for like 17 to 20 hours a day when they're newborns, then their face is just right above the surface where these chemicals are off gassing, right into the breathing space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've ruined so many kids.
it's fine. Like, it'll still be fine, and that's always like we've talked about before, that's kind of the hard part of having these conversations is, like, my goal is not to stress people out and make them think like, "Oh my gosh, I ruined my kid," but
Or Sally, who's listening, who just bought a mattress and spent a good chunk of
yeah,
money on it, can't get a return. We're not saying it's time to return the mattress. This is
no.
just saying, let's think a little bit more before we buy next time.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, some sort of pure mattresses are just fine. You just have to be aware of like all the other components. Green Guard Gold is a good certification for mattresses because Green Guard Gold means that the organic volatile chemicals or volatile organic chemicals, the VOCs that are coming off into the baby's breathing space, like I said, that's really low. So Green Guard Gold will not have many of those chemicals, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So, is there a place that people can like look up this type of thing? Like, how would be the best way to research it? Let's say I was looking for a mattress today. Where would you tell me to go, like, figure it out?
I mean, I have an article. I have a couple articles.
Yeah. And we will definitely link to her articles.
Okay,
But let's say I want to buy a sippy cup, right? Because
sure. Oh,
BPA,
right.
like, there's just all these different things. Also, like flame retardant on pajamas, right? When you were saying that,
Right,
I'm like,
yeah.
aren't pajamas don't they
So
require them to be flame retardant?
so again, they've changed because people are becoming more savvy, thank God, that these things are like not okay. And so now you'll notice that for little kids, jammies are either if they're cotton, they're nice and tight to the body,
Hmm.
or if it's like a little gown, it's going to be like polyester or something. And that's because polyester won't catch on fire well.
Or it'll just melt to your skin like plastic.
Right, right, right. But you won't catch on fire, and that's what we're yeah. So they get around it by, so cotton does ignite, but if
Okay.
you have it close to the body, like, you're gonna have worse things going on, I suppose.
Okay. So this is why I always had to buy my kids' pajamas 2 sizes too big. Because otherwise they were like, Mommy,
Right.
I can't get my arm through.
Right, yeah, so don't. Your kids luckily did not catch on fire, but, yeah, keep like, they're supposed to be snug like that on purpose. So, let's see, you mentioned the pajamas, sippy cups,
But just
and
like sippy cups, when you're trying to like check out, because now there's BPAA, there's BPAB, there's probably
well,
BPAC.
BPS,
I don't
yes,
know.
BPA and BPS. No, you're good. Well, so that's another one of those things. I'm in this all the time. So I'm a scientific consultant for a big company that sells baby products, and like I've got the PhD background. So like I'm seeing all this stuff all the time. So I have a pretty good mental checklist of like where regulations are and how things have changed. That's going to be harder, if you're not in that all the time. But what I will say for bottles and sippy cups, don't get anything used, particularly 2013 or earlier, because the regulations were different then. So now they're not allowed to use a particular plastic called polycarbonate or polycarbonate, because that is what typically has BPA and BPS and all that kind of stuff. You'll see that, and you can look at the recycling code on the bottom, but you'll see that bottles now are made out of something called polypropylene. And just with the way that polypropylene is flexible and all that kind of stuff, you don't need BPA or BPS to like make it do what it's supposed to, like as far as the physical, makeup of the bottle. So that's what bottles and sippy cups are often made of now.
Yeah. Do you have an article on that kind of stuff on your website?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
did.
obviously you just go to your website, which we'll link. What's the URL again? Evidence based,
Evidence-basedmommy.com.
and it's all one word.
Well, it's actually evidence-basedmommy.com.
Okay.
So I need to work on that. That's a whole thing. You know how that goes.
So just go on there and search, because she's done the research. She'll look it up for you, so you can just go to the store and buy something and feel a little bit better that it's good, at least for a few years. Because on baby number 3 for me, that was in 2009, I switched out all my bottles. But clearly, if I had a baby now, I'd have to buy even new bottles.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah. So, well, and that's I'm trying to remember the year for crib mattresses and stuff too, because a lot of that has changed because again, they've realized like, maybe flame retardants aren't good for children. And so don't go for like old used crib mattresses, which I mean, I get that that's like a great way to save money. But if you can avoid it, unless you see like that little tag tells you whether or not there's flame retardants, I think that's what it is. They started requiring that tag in like 2014 or something like that. Like,
And then you'll
and
know.
so they probably now they do require it, so you can at least tell. But yeah, try to avoid used stuff even within the past, gosh, that's less than 10 years ago. I mean, we're learning so much and things are changing all the time.
Yeah. So I think what I'm learning here is that, well, first off, we thought the biggest problem was kids getting set on fire, when perhaps the bigger problem was like all the things they're inhaling.
I mean, it's well, and that sounds dramatic, but it's a cost benefit analysis, and it's
Yeah.
hard because it's like, the one kid who, God forbid, is in a house fire, like maybe that would make a difference, but thousands and thousands of other kids are getting like the toxic effects from these chemicals. So like where's the trade-off? And I mean that's kind of what they have to do when they're making legislation, or they can listen to lobbyists and all that too, which is a whole nother, we won't touch that. But it's just hard to figure out like the best way to go about a lot of these things.
Yeah. And luckily, you're just going to have to read the labels, which is so boring and not very fun, right? But at least they're labeling it.
Yeah, and I mean, even now, like they have crib mattresses like at Target that's Green Guard Gold certified. So it's a lot of times like the really high end ones, like they're great, and they have a lot of those like more certifications that I like for various reasons I won't get into. But if you're, just like if your bare minimum is like Green Guard Gold or maybe Certipure, as long as everything else is okay too, like you can get that, like somewhere locally without too much hassle.
Yeah. So just put a little bit more effort into these things that are in your kids' mouths all the time. I think
Right.
and in their space.
Their airspace. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good advice. Good advice for us throughout our parenting. Maybe I should do better with my guest room bed too. I'm sure I've killed so many people at this point. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. No, you're good. They'll be fine. They were only there for like a couple nights.
That's true. All right. Thanks for coming on, Samantha.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I mostly want to stress that we didn't do this podcast to make you freak out about the mattress that you already have. I really just want us to think a little bit more broadly. We're making shopping decisions for our kids, myself included. Like I said, we didn't think about any of this back in 2000 when I had my baby. So it's just more knowledge can be more power when we're making a purchase, especially purchases that are going to be in our kids' mouths, in their breathing space, around them all the time. I think it's so important. Stay tuned. Next week's episode is going to be when you're afraid of like how long labor is going to take. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. The Pulling Curls podcast grows when you share us on social media or leave a review. If you do, please tag us so that we can share and send you a virtual hug, which frankly is my favorite kind of hugging. Until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.